yeah, I started photography like when I was in middle school. We had a photography class. Well, it's even before that. Even my dad actually gave me my Canon, like a Canon 5D Mark II, which was his camera. He used to shoot like ice hockey
Okay.
for my brothers, and so that kind of like went on the shelf after a while. And he kind of like grew out of that hobby. And then I used to play with it in middle school, and then I enrolled in like a photography class, like learned how to process and like process like film in a dark room, all that stuff. Loved it. And then I used to also be that chick that like would post her pictures on like Tumblr and like try to get like as many reposts as
Oh,
possible. So
really?
I was like always into the social media thing. Yeah. Now that I like think about it, but I did all of that, and then I continued to do that like through, I would say like middle school, and then a little bit of high school, and then high school is where I started really like doubling down on swimming, and so pretty much like every other hobby took a backseat because I was like, okay, I gotta get into college, I gotta like put in the hours, and practice is like in the morning, then I go to school, then I go back to practice, then I go lift, then I do sleep, so it was very demanding, like from a very young age, and then got into school, and then school, military academy, not, first of all, it's an engineering school, second of all, it's a military academy.
Yeah, it's not like
So
your traditional school.
yeah, so I mean, I think now it might be a little bit better, and I think they have a little bit more opportunities for like cadets to now go be into more like creative things, like run social media accounts and like post stuff on Facebook and things like that, and get like content and like be a photographer. But like when I was a cadet, like when I was at school there, it was very like, no, like you are like training to become an officer in the army basically. So it was like I basically like did not touch a camera from like high school to through college, and then I graduated, joined the army, still did not touch a camera until basically I got back from deployment, and then I got my first dog, Luna, and then I was like, my dog is so cute, like I have to post pictures of her. So I did like the silly thing, and I like started a dog account for her, and then that's when I pulled the camera back
Oh,
out,
wow,
was
that's
because
awesome.
I was like, oh, I could like take really good pictures of her, and then that was like how I learned about like influencer marketing and like collaboration. So all that stuff happened in like 2018, 2019, and then got stationed here in Pittsburgh, and then COVID was also like happening, very much like in the middle of COVID, and then I was like, I kind of want to like get back into photography because now it's like I have time basically,
Right.
and so I did, and then I started just at the time, like how I got into motocross was like I was dating a guy at the time. We broke up like shortly after I moved here, but he used to ride dirt bikes. So like that's how I got into it, was like I was like, oh, like shooting dirt bikes would be really cool. And so that's how that started. So then I would like go to these like random like Switchback MX is like one of the first tracks I've ever shot at. And then I would just show up and like take a bunch of pictures and like post them to social media, and like people would repost them. I do the classic like grind set, I'm a new photographer thing, like you just give it out for free, just
Yeah.
tag me. So I did that for a little bit, and then met a ton of awesome people. But yeah, like that's basically like the whole like how it all like happened,
And now
the
we're
freelance
here.
stuff, and now we're here doing a podcast,
Yeah,
which is crazy.
which is awesome. Like, not only that, it's really
Yeah,
cool that like this is like one of the reasons why I started doing a
yeah,
podcast, just to kind of be able to connect with other creatives and
yeah,
people that do the same thing, that that
yeah.
they're in the kind of in the creative world. So it's pretty cool, and like it's even more awesome that like now I'm incorporating like cycling, because that's been a really
Hmm.
big part of my life over the last few
For
years.
sure, for
So
sure.
it's really cool because we just got done doing a ride,
Yeah.
and like now in this new season, it's been really fun for me because I'm like merging both worlds
Yeah.
of like my favorite pastimes, where it's like being creative and doing things like
Yeah.
that, but also just like writing. So it was fun.
Yeah.
So like, thank you for showing me and my son around like here in Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
which is really cool. It's the first time we come out, and like that's like another element too, is like that it makes it we're able to like now travel, ride bikes, and like
Yeah.
also do this thing. So it's like a lot of fun things converging on like all
Yeah.
at once. So it's I'm grateful that you're here and sharing your story, and we're just
Yeah.
having a
No, for sure.
conversation about like what it's like being a creative and like in this day and age,
Yeah.
and you know how we got into like bikes, like, which you kind of gave a little intro
Yeah.
to how you got started, which mine was similar to, to that. Like I shared it before, but like yeah, my brother-in-law came home with like a really cool
Yeah.
bike, rode a little bit, took us out to a trail
Dude,
one
that's
day,
all it takes.
and like I like we had bikes at home, but they were just some like trashy Walmart bikes,
Yeah, I
and
know.
like
I'm definitely, yeah.
I legit like that first ride, like the whole bike got fucking destroyed.
Yeah, you're like, dude, this shit ain't it.
But it was fun. So it was fun. I
Yeah.
literally like went out like a couple nights later. Like I ended up buying a bike,
Yeah.
and I got Cody a bike,
Mhm.
and then we just started riding. And like 4 years later, we're like,
Yeah.
we
Oh my
each
God, I
have like
love
3
that.
bikes, and
Yeah. Yeah. Like I got 4. It's like I'm about to get a 5th. Like it's insane. But yeah, I think at one point I was living in Atlanta. I think at one point I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think at one point I had like 6 or 7 bikes. It was insanity.
Wow.
Like crazy.
yeah, Cody's now he's like wanting to like I want to get a dirt jumper.
Dude, you got to do it. I have one. Admittedly, I don't ride it as much as I thought I would. I've been just going crazy on my gravel bike, my Diverge. There's also just like not that many like pump tracks and skate parks in DC that are like bike friendly.
Yeah,
Especially for like dirt jumpers, because those are just like naturally a little bit larger.
Right.
So it's definitely tough. And then on top of that too, right? Like I'm not like the most jibby, sendy kind of rider. Like I love like trails and like single track and like just being able to like go climb a mountain and like sit up there and like think about my life choices like
Exactly.
and then like come back down and like enjoy the ride. But I love like shooting people like that. Like I love shooting people that are into like the crazy cool tricks, willing to like risk it all for the shot. I mean, like I'm right there with them, like to risk it all. So it's like, it's just one of those things that like I appreciate it from like a distance, but like could that be me? I don't really know if that's my style of riding.
yeah.
But like,
I'm the same way. Like
Yeah.
I'm like I joke like I like to keep my wheels on the ground.
yeah,
As much as I have,
Yeah.
as much as I can. And it's like, it's been cool. Like even
Mm-hmm.
with my son racing, like being able to go out to
Yeah.
the trail and like take pictures and do
Yeah.
that. Like that's kind of exposed me to like another like I guess another niche of like just the
Mm-hmm.
whole filmmaking and like photography that I can now do like action
Yeah.
sports. And traditionally, like I had like my come up doing like a lot of like music videos,
yeah,
and I did a lot of sports. Like I would shoot a lot of like professional football and like basketball
yeah.
players.
That's so sick. Yeah.
So like that's I've always been around like sports and stuff, but like action sports I feel like is a totally different thing where
Yeah.
I've had to like just learn to approach it a little bit differently, but being
Mhm.
able to like ride and be involved in it myself, that
Yeah.
it's made it like a lot more enjoyable, where
Yeah.
I appreciate people who can do all
Oh.
that crazy like jibby
No,
sandy stuff
100%.
like you said.
And it's like it's also one of those things too, right? Where you come to appreciate those images more when you can understand kind of like the severity or like how large that thing really is, right? Like
or the work that went
It's-
into getting to that
Yeah.
location or whatever.
Exactly. And it's like it's one of those things where it's like, you know, when you do it every day and you've gone through it and like you know how much work it takes to do a crazy jump or like even, you know, play a sport or something. It's like you just have a lot more appreciation when you have gone through it yourself and you know what it takes to like get there. So for me it's like I'm always like super grateful that like I ride and then I'm able to like take the photos, and it's like crucial for me to do that because like being able to ride and like ride single track and like go out there and get on the bike and stuff, it's like it helps you become a better photographer for like that specific subject. So yeah, I just try to like I'm always trying to like ride with people that are like better than I am.
Yeah.
Like I'm like I will be the last one. Like
Yeah, it's interesting. Like
like
I'm still like I'm starting to get there. Like I even think like just
Yeah.
even us being here, like having ridden together, like I've always had a
yeah.
like I don't know, somewhat kind of like imposter syndrome a little bit of
Yeah.
like riding with people that are like a lot more experienced. Where I feel like with mountain biking is not I feel like it's not
Yeah.
like that. Most people are like super chill and they don't
Oh,
care, like,
100%.
you know,
Yeah,
like
100%.
waiting up or whatever. But like for me, like I've always been like super self conscious of like I know
Yeah.
I'm fucking terrible, and like I
Yeah.
don't want to like hold everybody back or like we have like we just had like a
Yeah.
really like big climb. Once we finished riding, I'm like I'm
You're like,
struggling, but like
I'm gonna cool it on the back. Like,
so,
yeah,
but
I feel that for sure.
so like I've I'm even us being here like
Yeah.
it's me working towards this kind of like
Yeah.
knocking that like as like a thing and like trying to just work through it because like my
Hmm.
experience has been everybody's been super chill and they don't care if like we're just
Yeah.
having like I'm
Yeah.
everybody's glad that we're just riding having fun on bikes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think first of all, yeah, I think like the mountain bike, just the biking community in general, like especially mountain biking, it's like as long as you're out there, like everyone's just stoked that like you're out. Um but yeah, I think like going back to like your point about the imposter syndrome and stuff, like coming from a background that was always just like really intense about sports, like swimming's just like one of those like super grind sports where you literally it's like running or like doing like 50-mile rides on the
Yeah, it's
road
like
bike. It's just a
it's an extreme
grind.
it's an endurance sport.
It's an endurance sport. It's just a grind. You're looking at like a black line on the floor for like hours. I don't even want to know like how many hours I've spent like staring at a black line. But like for me, I also took it like very seriously. And for me, like to the point where if I didn't, win a race or, like didn't get the time I wanted, it would be like mental breakdown. Like I would freak out. I'd be like, oh my God, Rachel, like you suck. And it's just like terrible, like such bad like self-talk. And so for me, it's like when I picked up mountain biking, because, like picking up a new sport at like, 26 or 25, like you're going to get humbled. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
like, I'm
Try
sorry, it's
30.
going to happen. Yeah, it's going to happen. And so it took like, and I still struggle with it, but like it took me a lot to like not, get so frustrated. Like and I would still like get like frustrated all the time about not being able to like hit a little rock feature or whatever, like, and it's so silly because it's like you get on the bike to like have fun and just be outside. But in the beginning, like that first year of me mountain biking, it was like oh my God, like Rachel, you're the worst, like, and I literally had to like train my mental headspace out of that. But I
Yeah,
still like struggle with it though.
I could imagine like it's like you mentioned like it being humbling because coming from another sport like you would think like oh okay well I already do
Yeah.
like this endurance like maybe it shouldn't be as challenging
Yeah. Yeah.
transitioning to something else. Like I
Yeah.
grew up playing baseball and basketball and like stopped doing that and like I never really like picked up a bike and it's crazy because like the last few
Yeah.
years I've ridden a lot more than I have like my whole
Yeah.
like I started riding at 31 and like well I was like almost 33 sorry
Yeah.
and like the last 3 years literally more than I've ridden my whole life up
Yeah.
to that point which is crazy.
It was like, and oh, by the way, like I don't like swim anymore. It's like
Oh
I
really?
I don't like get in a pool. Yeah, it's super crazy. And it just goes to show like how I think like by the time I hit the tail end of like my D1 career, it was like I was like, dude, like I am like exhausted and like this sport has like it's sad because like I was good and like there were parts about it that I loved and like I got a lot out of swimming. But yeah, like I like don't do it. I want to get back into it because it's like so good for you.
Yeah.
It's so good for you. But like yeah, like lap pools like freak me out now. I'm like I can't.
Have you tried
I'm
to like do
like
it or you just like
I just like
whatever?
have no desire. I'm like I'd rather go like ride my road bike or like go mountain bike or go to the gym, go for a walk, go for a hike. Like I would just rather do other things. I think if I had access to like an outdoor lap pool, it would be different. Like I would go swim in like an outdoor lap pool, but like going into like an indoor lap pool that's like dark and it like smells like chlorine and it's like
Yeah.
slippery and kind of like weird moldy vibes. Like I no, I'm good. Like I've spent way too much of my life in there, so it's like but yeah, it's like I don't want that to happen to like mountain biking, right? Like I don't want to take it so seriously to a point where it's like like, dang, this sport kind of stresses me out. Like,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
interesting because like I've kind of experienced that, like even like the whole like creative world for me, like it's
Oh
I
yeah,
know
that
it's just
too.
like it's like a sob story at this point for the podcast, but like I'm always like telling new people, but like struggled a lot just getting burnt out, like creatively, just either
Mhm.
a mixture of like having to do work because that it doesn't really excite you as much
Yeah.
because you got to pay the bills and
Oh, for
make money or
sure.
whatever.
Yeah.
And like I can relate to that in that sense where like I got tired of like shooting
Yeah.
like super low budget music videos even though they were fun at first, and but like once I started kind of
Mhm.
take it very serious or try to make money off of it, like it
Yeah.
just became like a just a drag, and like it wasn't it wasn't as fun to do
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah. I that resonates with me too because when I was shooting, very similar story, when I was like shooting all those amateur motocross events, like it was super fun and I did it for free. Like I went out there with my Canon 5D Mark II, the same Canon 5D Mark II that I used in like middle school. Like borrowed my dad's like super clunky, like I mean it still worked great by the way. I've since upgraded, but like the super clunky like first gen like 70 to 200
Oh yeah.
millimeter like the gray lens still works great by the way. So like people that have that like still awesome. But like I used to just go out there and I used to have so much fun. Like I used to love like editing those photos, but now like having gone through like a couple more reps, like shot a bunch of other things and like have gotten paid by like brands that want to pay me like my worth essentially. Now it's like I think about going back to that stuff and I'm like, ooh, like I don't it it'd be tough for me to like justify the time to like go out there and just do it like pro bono or like for free basically. But I think if like depending and like this goes into like a whole nother conversation too, right? Of like, okay, when do you do stuff for free versus not? Because I think there are situations where I think doing stuff for free is like absolutely worth
How do you
it.
approach that now?
Yeah. So for me it's like I think, if there's like a very specific goal that I have in mind that and, someone's kind of where some an opportunity comes along and it's maybe it's not the highest paying gig but like it'll introduce you to other like pro riders or like up and coming pro riders. Like I think being able to shoot as a photographer or like as a creative that wants to get into like the action sports space, like being able to have a portfolio that shows like, hey, you've shot these like really exceptional people. I think that definitely helps your case to like down the line get paid like by like the I don't know like the Red Bulls or like the Specialized of the world. It definitely helps. I think. Um, so in situations like where there's like a rider and they're maybe they have like a pretty good following, then it's like, okay, maybe I will shoot you for free. Typically these days though, it also there's a lot of other factors too. Like for me, it's like I also have a full-time job, right? So it's like let's say even if I did want to shoot this pro rider, like it would be, if he's only available on like weekdays, then it's
Yeah,
like, bro,
it's
I can't make that work. Like cuz and it's like it's always like this constant balance that you have to like dance with essentially. And so this year like I've actually like really struggled with just like being able to find time to do freelance because work's been like pretty busy. But yeah, I think you just have to you approach things like case by case, and you should always like strive to get paid. Like you should, because it's your time, it's your resources, your equipment, like you should get paid. But like I absolutely think there are scenarios where like you can do
yeah,
it for
it's
free.
justifiable.
Yeah, and like I think especially in like the outdoors like bike world too, I think like there's other opportunities to get compensated in like different ways. Again, like you should get paid cash cuz like you have a life to live.
Right.
You got to put food on the table somehow. But like, if for a lot of folks who are like if you're in a situation like me, right? Like where you have a full-time job, like it creates a little bit more space for you to basically kind of like toy around with, all right, like I can afford to like put food on my table and like afford gas and stuff. So, like maybe I can like, do these things for like product.
Right.
you know? And it's like, I think it's just that choice you have to make. And, you know, I think also that there are people out there that there's always like a brand to work with, or like a company to work with, or, you know, a shoot to do. Like there's something for everyone. And I think a lot of people get like, oh, but if you like say that, then like nobody's going to get paid. I'm like, okay, fair. But also, you know, like again, I think there's something for everyone at every level. And I think you have to just have the abundance mindset of like, there's something for everyone. And like, if you want to get paid, like there is a brand out there that will pay you like
Yeah,
100.
it's I don't know. I've had some experience with that where like people, yeah, it's I don't mind doing work for pro bono or for like
Yeah,
exchanging for for like a product or something, but it's not a. I've been afraid of like doing creative stuff and
mm-hmm.
like letting that kind of like get in the way of like wanting to like enjoying like the whole creative process of like making
Yeah,
something. For me, like it's I've always like worried about like, oh, once I start like trying to do this for money or trying to take it more seriously, like I've been like afraid of like it
100%.
becoming more work than it,
Dude, that
and it
literally
doesn't
happened to me
become
last
enjoyable
year.
really.
100% happened to me last year. I was living in Atlanta and I decided to like go full blown. Like I had a little bit more bandwidth, and like also I think in Atlanta it's a little bit more accessible in terms of like outdoor activities. Like Jared's place is down there. There's a ton of surprisingly like ton of mountain
Yeah.
biking, bike all year round. And I at the time I was kind of like, dude, I'm gonna just like send it and like see how much money I can make freelance, like while maintaining my responsibilities at work. And so, um, yeah, dude, like I went full blown like, dude, you know what? Like if they're gonna pay me, like we're gonna do it. Like it's fine. And then it got so bad to a point where I was like taking on work that I was doing work with brands like influencery. First of all, like I wasn't even like really doing photography anymore. It was like UGC, like collabs,
It
like
was like full blown like
it was
yeah.
like full blown influencer marketing. Which is like fine. I enjoy those things and I understand there's like a need for that. But I did it, and I I was taking deals with like brands that I didn't even like because
Yeah.
I was like, dang, like they're gonna pay me, so like I should do it. But like at the same time,
Yeah,
this
it's
is
like
like not it.
it
And
doesn't
like
align with you.
yeah, it's like not a good alignment. And when you like go to my account and like you look at those, you're kind of like, this like feels kind of forced, and it's like because it is, you know. So and I think like every person who is trying to like monetize their social media like runs into that. Like they, if you're really pushing it, like you will run into that. Like, and it's a thing that happens. So like this year I've been very intentional about like two things. Like one, posting things about my life that like I want to post about. And if the brand fits, then like it fits and it feels more natural. So inherently that means like less collabs, because it's like, okay, like if you're not going to fit in it, like if you don't fit into it,
Yeah,
then like
it's not
it's
gonna
going
happen.
to feel weird.
Yeah.
And the brand doesn't want that either, right? Like they want something that's going to be a natural fit. So like that's the better option anyway for both people. And then also like I've been like very intentional about trying to like reel back like the collabs so that I can get back into photography and like be a photographer and like not be an influencer person that also rides bikes and like takes pictures. So I've been trying to like be much more intentional about that. But yeah, it's like, yeah, it's brutal.
I've got introduced to that like in the whole like filmmaking space, and like I
Yeah.
did some stuff early on for like product, and some stuff like didn't work, it didn't
Yeah.
align, or like there were even like some things that like I wasn't super happy with like the final
Yeah.
product, and it just like left a
Oh
sour
yeah.
taste in my mouth. I'm like, yeah,
Oh
like
yeah.
maybe it's not like for me like to do that,
Mhm.
but like part of me is like wants to like
Yeah.
do more of it, because I in a way it's kind of I viewed it as like, okay, well, this is like just another way of like,
Mhm.
another way to supplement like additional income, whether it's with the product
Totally.
or whatever.
Totally.
um but like I've even with this podcast and everything that I've done, like I'm still like figuring out like my voice and like who I am, and,
Yeah.
like my identity as like a creator
Yeah.
in the
Mine changes
world.
like every 6 months.
Which and honestly, and to be honest, like you know, a
Yeah.
couple of years into this with the podcast, like I've come to realize like it's I feel like it's a never ending like target, and you're
Yeah.
always the target is always moving.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's a matter of like, I guess it's, you don't necessarily become like, you become the person who you are at that moment, and then if
Yeah.
you know,
Totally.
and if that changes, then it changes, and then you just kind of
Totally.
roll to the next thing. And like I'm starting to realize that now, that it's like it doesn't necessarily mean that this is this person that I want to be is who I have to be for like
Yeah.
until the end of time.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely, and the thing with like socials is, you get rewarded for being the same. So like, if you're posting bike content like constantly, right? You're posting like the same content. Um, you know, like Instagram will like reward you for that. You know what I mean? So like the consistency is very important there, but like inherently, especially as like creative people, like you're always like trying to like push your boundary. Like you're always trying to do something different, change it up. And I think that's a lot of the reason why like a lot of like you'll see like a lot of pro photographers like out there, and like these really like exceptional photographers, and like they don't really have that many followers. And it's like, and it's, I'm still trying to figure out like, okay, as a photographer, like if I'm not using social media, like how do I get my name out there more? And it's like going to events, it's like doing stuff, like getting out there basically. Because at the end of the day, like it's important to like advertise yourself on social media, but I also think that like
That's not
it's
the only
really
way to do it.
easy. Yeah, and it's really easy to like get caught in like like I gotta post another like dirt bike picture because Instagram told me is like the feedback is like that it's good. Like,
Like,
so
I haven't posted a thing like in 2 years.
yeah, and it's like, dude, I used to post every single day, and now I post maybe once a week. And it's like, and it's a mix of like lifestyle. Sometimes it's my work. My work never gets good likes, by the way. It's always like the dumb shit of like
Yeah.
my lifestyle stuff, which is like fine. I actually kind of enjoy doing that stuff too, so it's like not a big deal. But yeah, dude, I kind of hate social media these days.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not gonna lie.
it's been like a scary thing, and like I don't know,
Yeah.
I've always been like approaching it with like a 10-foot pole.
Yeah.
And like I see like a lot of the work that I do is
Mhm.
stuff for like social media and like things
Yeah.
for brands, and like more so behind the scenes, but like
Yeah.
when it involves me, I'm just kind of like hesitant, just from like
Yeah.
experiences that I've heard from like people, and like things that I've seen
Yeah.
with like the brands and like the people that I work with.
Mhm.
I don't know, like it's something like I'm always like I kind of need to work on it, and like I need to do it, but at the same
Yeah.
time I'm like very conscious of like not trying to like ruin it, or like
Yeah,
not
don't get
making
too
it fun.
crazy. Yeah, I feel that entirely. I'm definitely on the side now of like, I tried it out. I gave it a solid shot for like I would say about a year. I'll still do collabs with brands that like make sense, but I mean it's definitely like not where I want to be as far as like being in front of like constantly being in front of the camera all the time. Like that's not really like my thing. I would much rather just take the photos.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
and like honestly, like it's I don't know, like that, and that's kind of like where I'm like I think the good thing from this is like that where you're able to kind of be intentional with the
Yeah.
kind of work that you do, and like who you want to be online, and
Yeah.
that's something that like now I'm like very conscious about. And like I don't like, I used to beat myself up about it, like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm not posting, I'm not doing this as much, but like I'm content with being who I am, like
Yeah.
authentically, and like whether that
Is you
is
posting
like
or not.
forward facing posting or not,
Yeah.
it's
like
I'm not gonna like beat myself up over it. And like I
Yeah.
think now, as I'm restarting this podcast, and like trying to put a different spin on it, and like make
Yeah.
it more exciting for me to like do, I think that it hasn't felt like work, and like
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I need to post this, I need to get X
Yeah.
amount of like clips from the podcast, or do this. And
yeah.
like I for a while there, I feel like a lot of the conversations ended up like being forced, and like I tried to like
Mhm.
try to get into a topic that's gonna get
Yeah.
attention, or
Yeah.
clips, or something
Yeah.
that's clippable or whatever. And like it started to become like a drag, and like I spent some
Yeah.
time away from it, and now I'm kind of like restarting it, and
Mhm.
like talking about bikes or even just being on bikes has been cool because like the last few episodes that I've done have been with people who have never been on a mountain bike,
Oh my
and
God.
like
Yeah.
we
I
go out on
love
the
that.
trail and they're like, wow, this is like really fun. Like, you know, a
Yeah.
lot of people have this like misconception of like mountain biking is like, oh, you know, you're doing
It's
like 10
always some
foot
like
drops and
gnarly
like,
free ride shit. And it's like, dude, it doesn't have to be like that. Mountain biking, it does not have to be like that at all.
you know,
Like,
so like it's been fun.
yeah.
So like and even like with the podcast it's like giving like a different energy to like the conversations that we
Yeah.
have because it's all like centered around, oh, like that was really
Mm.
cool, I wasn't expecting that, or I didn't think I could do that, you
Yeah.
know, and like here
Yeah.
we
Oh
are.
my God, that's so crazy. Yeah. It is. I definitely like the appeal to mountain biking initially for me was like the crazy, like 10-foot drops and the 50-foot, you know, tabletops, whatever. But obviously I don't do that. So it's like so much deeper now for me than that. But like originally that was like the original draw was like dirt biking, and I was like, "Oh, I want a dirt bike so bad." But, you know, like I'm moving every 2 years because of the army, and like now it's almost like every year it seems like since I've gotten out, and it's like just owning a dirt bike would be like a ton of work, like
Yeah.
unnecessarily a ton of work. So it was like the next best thing was like a mountain bike. So that's like why I got into it. But yeah, like I'm just like, dude, I don't really need the dirt bike, honestly. Like the mountain bike is perfect for me.
Yeah,
So
it's a
yeah.
it's for me it's I didn't even think that that was a thing, like living in Ohio most of, you know, like my adult
Dude,
life, like
yeah, I didn't think Pittsburgh had anything either. I was like, what do you mean? Like mountains are not here, but there are mountains.
I
Believe
tell
it
you,
or
my
not.
brother-in-law came like mountain biking. Where the fuck do you go ride, bro? Like what? He's like, yeah, we go over
Okay,
here.
yeah. I mean, Ohio is such a bizarre state to me. Like I love it, but I also like can't stand it. It's like
I feel you.
like I can't help. I love it, but I also like I don't know. I'm just like anyway. It's like really good for like what it is.
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
Ohio. Like
People are like who are like, "Oh, like F Ohio." And I'm like, "Dude, they got like stuff out there."
it.
Like low key. Like
I no for real. Like honestly, like I've
like
like over the last few years, I've been to so many state parks that I didn't know existed. That
yeah.
like, oh, there's like some cool hiking. There's like places that you can go ride bikes and like, you know, spend
Yes.
time with family and stuff. Is it's been cool. So like even now, whenever we
Mhm.
do like family camping or
Yeah.
picnics or going out or whatever, we're bringing the bikes because we're like, oh, we're mixing
Yeah.
in like some.
No, 100%. And it's like I think when I was like younger and even like even more recently, like when I was, you know, 24, 25, 26, I was always of the, you know, I was like, "Oh, I would like never live in like Ohio." That's like insane. And then
Like who does that?
but dude, oh my God. After living in like okay, so basically the timeline of like locations that I've lived since Pittsburgh. Uh I was in Pittsburgh. I moved to Manhattan for an internship for 6 months. So I lived in like FiDi Financial District, like right next to the Freedom Tower. Lived that life for like 6 months. And then after that, I moved straight to Atlanta. I lived in Atlanta for a year. Also massive city, like Austin type vibes. And then after that, I've lived in DC for like the last year. And I gotta say, I am like kind of tired of big cities and how expensive everything is.
Yeah.
Everything's so expensive. I love the idea of like owning like 15 acres in Ohio and like having a really Gucci like barn dominium,
Yeah.
and then I live in that. Like and like there's no other state. Okay, no, that's a lie. But like there are other states that you can do that. But
Yeah, but like
like
in Ohio, it's like it's
it's like you
doable,
can do
and like
whatever you want.
and like it's kind of starting to like not be like that now. Like I feel like
Yeah.
it's crazy. Like over the last few years, like Ohio
I feel
is
like it's
like
like low key popping off.
I actually
It's kind
I
of
saw I
crazy.
saw something recently. Like I know a lot of people like a lot of I do a lot of stuff with like realtors,
Yeah.
and like a lot of the things that they talk about and like I've seen is like they're like Ohio is like one of the fastest growing cities like in the country,
God, that
and
makes me
like
so mad, but I'm also stoked. I'm
so
like, why is
like
that happening? But
particularly
it's
like in
like,
Columbus is like one of
dude,
the fastest growing cities, but like
yeah.
Ohio in general, like it's weird. Like I don't know how familiar you are with like the whole like Cincinnati and like Dayton area,
I'm
but
not
like
that familiar. Yeah.
like Dayton was always kind of like a small town,
God.
but like Dayton is like Cincinnati has grown so much
Yeah.
too that like Dayton is almost a suburb of Cincinnati now. Like they're literally like the two suburbs
What?
between them have kind of like blended in. So like
That's crazy.
it's like and
Yeah.
even I think from like Dayton to Cincinnati is like a 35-minute, 40-minute
Yeah.
drive, but like it's all like some people call it like it's almost like a suburb of like Cincinnati.
Yeah. Oh
And
my
like I even feel
God.
like even now between like Columbus and Dayton it's kind of like
Hmm.
starting to spread like that now, and it's
Yeah.
and
That's so
so
crazy.
if you're trying to do that, like I
Dude,
don't want to get
I
that
I would
soon
love to
because
do that, but I gotta we were talking about this on our ride earlier too, but like I would love to do that when I'm like 35, 36. Being like turning 29 next year, I still feel like I have a little bit more like things that I want to experience and like, just do other stuff. And I think by the time this comes out, which we also talked about, I will know for sure that I'm like moving to California or Seattle, like SoCal. Which there's like a lot of like I'm super stoked about that. That's for work, so that's for my day job. But I'm just excited to like West Coast has always been like a thing that I want to do. So by the time this comes out, hopefully everything will be like on a piece of paper and like I'll be good to go. And I'm not like literally lying to you right now.
yeah, no, but and like that's cool. Like being out there, that's exciting
Yeah.
because like you get to do more of like what you like doing.
Yeah,
Like there's
yeah.
a
And
lot of that's
it's
available out there.
yeah, and it's like again, it goes back to, like having accessible trails and like having people or like having a community outside of your 9 to 5 that's like important to have. And DC is great and I do have a community there. Um but like as far as like overall lifestyle fit, it's been like definitely tougher. But all that to be said, had it not been for DC, I would not have gotten into like gravel riding and like just riding on the road, which is a totally different. It's like it's fun in like a different way from mountain biking because like I got into mountain biking first and then I picked up like gravel, and so it's been like fun learning about like your brain just kind of like reacts differently to road biking.
It's
It's
a totally different.
bizarre.
It's like
It's
totally.
so different.
It's like playing basketball and like football almost. Like
Yeah, it's
it's
like and it feels very reminiscent of like swimming where you kind of just like get in the zone and you just like focus on like this very repetitive thing over and over, whereas mountain biking, you got to like you got to like be on it. You got to
yeah.
like watch out for
You're locked
stuff.
in like the whole
Yeah,
time.
you're locked in. You have to like take breaks every like quarter mile cuz like you got to get down certain segments. But like road biking and like gravel riding, you just go, and it's like it's just crazy. Like I think like it was 2 weeks ago I did like a 46-mile ride.
Oh
Just like
wow.
out and like pulled it out of my ass. I was like, and like it's because I just got so like locked in that I was like, what's another like 5 miles? And then you just end up at like almost 50 miles. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh my God.
my son and
So
I we're
crazy.
talking about like we want to do like a century ride here soon, and like
Yeah.
it's it doesn't sound too crazy to do,
Yeah.
and like be like maybe like a couple years ago it would have been crazy. Like we like I think like the longest ride I've done is about like 45 ish, 48
Yeah.
miles, and
Yeah.
like that was about 2 years ago, and I was dead. And like
Yeah.
I think
Oh,
at the
I
time I
bombed
was
super hard after my 46
I think at
miler.
that time
Yeah.
I wasn't like physically like
Hmm.
ready for it, but I haven't
Yeah.
ridden that much. I mean, just a couple weeks ago we did about like 22 miles like mountain biking,
Yeah.
and I mean I was pretty much dead after that. But I'm like, okay, if you like when you translate that to like
Yeah.
riding on the road or like
Dude, it's so
gravel, like
different.
it's like oh maybe
Yeah.
I could probably do like 100 miles. Maybe it'll be
It's so
tough, but
different.
it's
Yeah.
it's been cool. I think for me like the biggest like draw to that has been the fact that you
Hmm.
can just like roll out of your house and
Oh, dude. Yeah. Yeah.
because
It is unmatched.
like
Just rolling out of your house.
how we were
Yeah.
talking about like me living in like central Ohio, like
Yeah.
there are no trails near me, so for me to get to a mountain bike trail I'm about like 45 minutes to an hour
Yeah.
in any direction, so
Oh,
regardless of like
God.
whatever trail we choose, like it's
Yeah.
cool that there's like options, but it's not really easy. Like I finish work and then you got to get ready and then you got to
Dude.
go,
Yeah.
and if you're doing it in the evenings, like you got to deal with like rush hour traffic because
Yeah, and then
everybody's
you
like
gotta like
traveling.
race the sun.
You're
Like
racing the
I've
sun.
I've literally done that before. Like in Atlanta, like literally race the sun because I get out of work and you gotta drive. You gotta
Yeah.
drive to the trailhead, and it's like that's so brutal. I've been so spoiled in DC, like not with mountain biking, but with like the gravel bike because there are things about DC that I do not like, but the one thing that I will give DC is just their like bike system. Like just the bike trails, like road, both paved and gravel, like
Really?
is just like they have. Granted, like, do the drivers respect it? Questionable, but like
But
like the
there's some
bike paths.
infrastructure because, like I tell
But the
you, like
infrastructure is amazing. Like you can easily get like you can easily clock like a 100-mile ride just like riding around the DMV. And
wow,
it's like the city is just so different too, and it's like beautiful. I mean, like like the monuments, like National Mall, like riding around all that stuff is so sick. But yeah, like I live in Alexandria, Virginia, which isn't even in DC. It's like 7 miles south of DC.
right?
I bike commute to work like every day,
Oh
like
wow,
every day that I'm able to. And it's like, it's such a game changer. It takes the same amount of time driving,
really?
but like I can ride my bike to work and it's like, it's amazing. Like it total game changer.
Like,
Yeah.
I feel
It's
like it's
insane.
kind of cool too. Like I really enjoy, like, for me, starting my day like with like a workout and just kind of,
Oh yeah. Dude, I work out every day and I like don't even have to think twice. I'm like true like the true definition of multitasking. Like working out and commuting to work.
yeah, like it's
And I listen to like a podcast or like listen to music. Like, dude, it's so great.
yeah.
Like,
I've always, like, even when we started mountain biking, like we I kind of got introduced to like the whole gravel and just like riding like the paved
uh-huh.
trails because, you know, being in Ohio, a lot of the trails close. Like you get a little bit of rain and the trails close,
Yeah.
and you can't always ride, or even
Yeah.
just like like we were saying, like the whole accessibility, of having to commute to the trailhead.
Yeah.
That it's just been cool just being able to do that and you just go for a
Yeah.
ride. Whether
Mhm.
I mean, we found ourselves sometimes like in the evening right before dark or whatever, like, oh, let's go. We're just sitting around the house, like, let's just go ride, and we'll like go ride 10, 15 miles or whatever. And
Oh yeah, I've done that so many times. I've done that so many times in DC. You just throw a light on like on your gravel bike and you just go. It was like really.
so like I think like my mission now is like try to there's definitely a lot of like I think where I am, like, specifically, there's not
Mhm.
a whole lot of infrastructure per se, but like once you kind of get into like downtown, like more into the city,
Yeah.
there's like wider bike lanes, and
Yeah,
there
for
are
sure.
there's a lot more places that are like more accessible or
Mhm.
whatever, like making it easier to like ride.
Yeah.
So it's maybe we still have to do like a little bit of a ride to drive to like get to places, but it
Yeah.
it's fun. Like I like the idea of being able to like just roll out of your house and just go on an
Dude,
adventure.
it's so yeah, it's so nice. I that if yeah, when I move, I don't know if where I move next will have that, but I will miss that. Like Mount Vernon Trail in DC and like CNO Trail that comes up to Pittsburgh. Like you could literally bike from DC to
Yeah,
Pittsburgh.
like I
Like
like that for me. Like that's on a bucket list. Like I
yeah.
want to do like the Ohio to Erie Trail and like basically go from like
Yes.
Cincinnati to Cleveland, and then like try
Yeah.
to connect to like like
Yeah, I
I know some people
actually
that have ridden from
yeah.
like Columbus to DC.
They're doing I actually think this might be a rumor, but I don't think it is. They're actually building out CNO to go all the way to Cleveland.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, so you could in a few whenever they finish, like you could go from DC like Georgetown, which is like the town that it starts in DC, like all the way to
Yeah,
Cleveland,
that'd
which
be
is
sick.
crazy. Like people like do there's tons of people that do like the Pittsburgh to DC. I'm like, you guys, and there's like literal camping sites at like
Yeah, like
each
along the path.
marker, and it's
So like
so
the
crazy.
trail that we that's like close to my house is part of that Ohio
Hmm.
to Erie, and there's like a campsite like 10
Yeah,
miles from like our house.
yeah.
And
I'm like, I might have to do it before I move. Seriously.
like that day that we did like the longest ride, we rode out to like Yellow Springs, and they have some
Yeah,
mountain bike trails out there, and we literally just we rode out there, which at the time,
yeah.
like, it was horrible because we did it like in the middle of July on our mountain
Oh,
bikes.
dude, that's so bad.
And like
That's
so we rode
tough.
out there because we were like, oh, we'll take the mountain bikes because we want to like ride the mountain bike
Yeah,
trails. But like we were dead. We spent the night. We like loaded the bikes up, and like we spent the night
yeah.
at the campground there. And but like I want to do that now with like the gravel
Yeah.
bike. Like I'm sure that'll be so much easier.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely like so even today I did I you know this, but like other people don't. But I did a shoot this morning in Pittsburgh and it's just so funny. I thought about bringing we were going to mountain bike, so I was going to bring the mountain bike anyway. But I thought about like bringing the gravel bike and I was like, "Oh, maybe I'll just like, crank out like a crazy like, I don't know, like 30-mile-an-hour. I'm like, last year you would have never caught me like saying that.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so funny like how much can change based on like your surroundings and like what situations you put yourself in. Like I truly would not have said that last year. I would have been like, gravel biking can like kiss my ass, dude. Like I'm gonna ride my mountain bike. Like, but I'm so thankful like that I did, because I love gravel. Like it's like such a different vibe, but like in the best way.
Like I was telling you earlier, like cycling for me has been like really like I don't know, it's not necessarily an exaggeration, but like it really has been like life changing in the
Oh,
sense that
same.
it's
Yeah.
given me a lot of like perspective, and like I've
Yeah.
been able to do things that I never would have thought I would have ever done.
Same.
You know, or even just coming out here, like I just drove, 4 hours to
Yeah.
freaking go ride bikes, in some random place that I've never been
Yeah,
to
with some
before.
person you've never met before in real
And, like,
life. Yeah.
but like this is like it's been fun, and like I
Yeah.
think I feel like I've always been like a pretty adaptable person and pretty
Yeah.
like easy, like free flowing. Like I just go with the flow.
Yeah.
But like it's definitely, I think like cycling in general has given me like a different perspective, or like giving
Yeah.
me even more outlook. Just being able to be like, yeah, like there's a lot of different things to like do out there. And
Oh, 100%. And I used to think it was like, when I first got into like riding, I used to think it was like super cringy when people would like say exactly that. Be like, "Oh, dude, like biking changed my life." I'm like, "You're kind of lame, dude. Like that's so weird."
Yeah.
And then like, but now it's like it's been like what? Like I think it's been like 3.5 years, and like I have to say like, yo, I might be that guy too. Like it kind of changed my life.
like I tell you, like there's days when
like
I don't like go ride, I'm like I
Yeah.
like feel something, like I get like cabin fever, like I feel some kind
Oh,
of way. I'm like,
I get like
I need to go ride.
FOMO.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get like FOMO, and then I also get like it is for me. It's like literally going to therapy. I'm like some people will like go like slam drinks at the bar. Like I don't even want to go drink anymore because I'm like, dude, I gotta like go outside.
Yeah.
Like I have to like feel good. And I'm like old now, like drinking like 3 beers is gonna hurt. Like, so like I don't like do crazy stuff. And like to my point earlier, like I go to the gym now to like be able to ride. Like I
Yeah.
want to be able to like do this for as long as I can. And it's so crazy. Like it literally gives me like a whole new, so cringy, but like it literally like changed my life. I'm like, yeah, it's so crazy. But it also like, going back to like photography, like I love being able to like shoot mountain biking and like, to become a better mountain bike photographer, like people shooting, like a person shooting mountain bikes, you have to ride. Like you have to understand like what those athletes are doing. And you have to be able to like empathize with them and like be like, all right, like if I stand like at this part of the drop, like it'll look bigger and like
Right.
it'll look gnarlier. Like so it's like all that stuff. Like it's because like I ride and it's so crazy.
And
Yeah.
like for me, like that's been really fun, like going out to races and like events, or just
Yeah.
riding with people, that like it not only for me is fun because I always like getting into
Yeah.
like new things, doing different things. So like I'm kind of like, working those creative, flexing those creative muscles, and like having fun doing, that, having
Yeah.
that part of the process. But like it's kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, like just being able to merge both, where like, I
Yeah.
can have fun being creative and like also ride. And like I'd have, a lot of appreciation for like, the big like photographers that like do that, because like there's some
Dude.
of those guys, like especially like a lot of like the filmmakers.
Yeah, like nobody ever thinks about the filmmaker.
I'm
Everyone's
like
like, "Oh, that athlete's sick." I'm like, "Dude, what about the guy catching all that stuff though?" Like that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, "Oh my god, that dude, gnarly."
Yeah, and like and like even like the athletes themselves, like it's really cool like hearing some of their stories and like some of the things that
Mhm.
they're able to do, and like even
Yeah.
the challenges they go through, or like like some people like at races, like they're trying to
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
get on the podium and like win and like excel.
Yeah.
And for me, like what I want to do more of is like being able to tell their stories and do that. Like for me,
Yeah.
I kind of got introduced into like the whole like filmmaking space by chance. Like I was working for an airline and had like
Yeah.
travel benefits, and like I literally bought a camera because it's like, I'm like traveling all over
Yeah,
the
like
world or
might as
whatever.
well. Yeah.
So I literally got a camera just to start taking pictures, and I started doing like music videos because like a guy I used to work with like rapped or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, you're always with a camera." So we were like literally traveling to places and like shooting
Yeah.
music videos and doing stuff. So like I started doing that, and then I started like making some money off of it or whatever.
Yeah.
But I really got into, once I kind of started like making money from it and started working with like
Mhm.
different people and started to like get more into like the whole like storytelling aspect of
Yeah.
it. Like that's really what like
Yeah.
drew me into like being able to like create stuff. So like being able to tell stories is really what
Yeah.
I want to get out of like, making
Yeah.
stuff,
Hmm.
whether it's like photography or videography. But like with, some of these like athletes, it's like, you
Dude, they
know
put in so much work.
so being able to like
They
share that,
literally
and
risk it all. Like
so like being able to share that and like do that, like
I'm
that's
like, oh my
something that like I
god.
want to do more of. And like I'm grateful that like I got introduced to like all this,
Yeah.
because like I'm like learning as I learn more about the sport and a lot of the things that go into it
Yeah.
behind the scenes. Like
Yeah.
it really helps. Like, oh, like, these are things that
Yeah.
I want to be able to like share with the world and do more of.
Yeah, totally. And like I think the last like I would say even like present day, I've been doing a lot of work with like brands, which is like, that's great for a lot of reasons, right? Like it's like it pays well and like, you can like get a couple really awesome like names under your belt and, network and connect with a lot of people that way. Like but like to your point, I think for me it's always been like being able to tell a story about how a person like is gonna do this like super insane thing. And like I also, as much as I love getting like the epic shot where it's like, okay, like this dude's fucking sending it, like uh for me, like the thing that I've always found and like have also been externally validated for is just being able to capture like the more like intimate moments, like the like before the
Yeah.
super gnarly shot, right? Like and so for me, like that's the stuff that I really enjoy capturing is like being able to like and like piecing all those little pictures together like in a like silly Instagram collage or like being able, like I would love to be able to do like more kind of like editorial or like article pieces like in blog like an actual blog and like be able to like use my images and like some words to piece something
Yeah.
together. I think that's kind of like where my creative direction is going next is like being able to get those more intimate shots and then like have the shot and it's like and like being able to tell the whole story for that I think is like super fun for me and I really enjoy like the pre and after the super big thing like not even like the super big thing is always cool too but like for me it's always like the before and after that's like the most fun. Yeah.
Yeah. It's cool. Like coming from like different sports, I've realized like, like athletes are, yes, they have like different disciplines and they do things
Yeah.
differently, but like a lot of the like something that's very common is just like all the work that you put into, being good at what,
Yeah.
whatever it is that you're trying to do. So like being able to like tell more of that, that's really what I want to
Yeah.
do more of that. And like I don't know, it's hard, like, when, like we were talking about earlier, trying to figure in like all the like the personal branding, like things that you want to, like
Yeah.
you don't necessarily have to do all that, but like, you know in a way you kind of have to, in a way.
Yeah. It's
um
like yeah. It's definitely tough.
like what would you say for like somebody who's like, kind of like trotting that line of like, trying to, grow their personal brand and like mixing that in with,
Mhm.
like other work, whether it's
Yeah, like your
freelancing or
actual
whatever.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um I
Like,
think yeah, it's like tough because especially if you're trying to only use like tactically what does that look like? It's like you kind of maybe you kind of have like a messy feed like I do where it's like a bunch of random iPhone pictures of me on my silly gravel ride. And then it's like pictures from Redbud or not Redbud, but High Point like 2 years ago that I took of like Jet Lawrence and like Hunter when I was just like shooting, and that's like my work, like that's like what I did. And then maybe like the next photo is like from a photo shoot I did with like Wild Rye, but I was the model. Like it was like super crazy. Like and so I don't think there's like a right way to do it. I think it's like you just gotta lean
be
at the end of
authentic
the
to
day, you just gotta
yourself.
like trust your gut like anything else, and you just if it feels right to you, then you should just run it with it. And it's like not. I just don't think it's like that. Just don't overthink it. Like anything else in life, like just don't overthink it. Like if you feel like that is who you are, like that is something that represents you, then you should just post. Like you should just post it. Like tactically, that's what that looks like in my opinion. But I think too, right? Like as a photographer, like especially like today, it's like, your work should speak for itself and like people will want to hire you based on like your work. But I also think, I think like I've had clients before be like, oh yeah, like, you know, I would love to do a shoot with you. And like, but you know, we don't really, you know, there was like a little bit of hesitance around like how I work, like what the process looks like and things like that. So, I always think like, you know, you'll get like the classic like wedding and this is like more for like one-on-one clients, but it's like being able to see how a photographer actually like goes through their work like in a day, like them actually shooting like behind the scene, basically like behind the scenes type stuff is like, I think that's like also helpful too. So like it just depends on like what you're comfortable with sharing and like whatever feels right to you, really.
Yeah,
It's like,
so like
yeah.
the to sum it up is like there's really no clear cut way.
No,
It's kind of like
there is
whatever feels
honestly
authentic
for
to
all
you.
of freelance, there's like no clear cut answer. It's all about finding the thing that like works for you.
Yeah.
And like that's the beauty of it, but also it makes it challenging.
Yeah, and I think a common theme with like with this podcast and a lot of other people that I talk to is always like it just really boils down to you actually like doing the thing, and
Yeah.
then you'll eventually kind of figure out what's gonna
Yeah,
work for you.
exactly. And it's like what's funny is like, you know, we're gonna do this podcast and then I'd be so curious to uh like do this podcast, it goes out and then like do it again in like 3 years and like what's Rachel gonna say this time? Like because it's probably gonna be different. Like
Yeah,
seriously.
and like I think
Like
I'm about like 30 episodes in now,
yeah.
and like I feel like there's a lot of common themes and a lot of conversations the same, but like I think it's
Yeah.
there definitely is it
It's
does
like
evolve.
different. Yeah, it's like different and it's like, you know, cuz you go through different like life experiences and then it's, you know, like yeah, you'll be exposed to different things and you'll go through challenges and successes and you'll be like, actually I said that like 2 years ago and like I take it back. Like
Or
and I think
maybe
it's okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
or maybe you say that you want to do something and like
Yeah.
maybe you
And
kind
you're
of
like,
end up
dude,
doing
I
it.
did that and it kind of like sucked. Or like, oh, it was great. Like, you know, it's so crazy. It's so interesting and like funny that like life works like that.
Yeah, it's weird because like even like the kind of going back to like the whole this format new format for this
Yeah.
season of like riding bikes and like incorporating that into the podcast has been literally spurred by another filmmaker friend of mine who
Hmm.
he had posted on
Yeah.
Instagram like he had bought like a mountain bike,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, that's a mountain bike, like, oh, like where are you riding, are you like mountain
Yeah.
biking, or are you just trying to you just grab a bike to like ride
Yeah.
around? So he's like, oh, I don't know where where are the mountain bike trails. So like
Yeah.
I
Like, I
literally
don't know
went
what
on a
I'm
ride with
doing.
him,
Yeah.
just like low key, no podcast, no nothing, and like I hadn't seen him in a while,
Yeah.
and it was a really cool ride, even though we were like at a super like easy trail, like it
Yeah.
was very low key.
Yeah.
Like it was, we had like a really cool conversation, and like
Yeah.
that really spurred, I'm like, oh, like for me, like it clicked,
Yeah.
like, oh, maybe that
Maybe there's an idea here.
for maybe there is something here. And then like a
Yeah.
good friend of mine, Ross, he was just the one who, like, he kind of put the bug in my ear, like, yeah, like you're always talking about fucking bikes, like, maybe you could incorporate
Yeah.
the podcast into that somehow and make it work. And like
Yeah.
a few episodes in, like I've really enjoyed the format because it's not only having cool conversation and
Hmm.
exposing people to like bikes, but even being able to talk to you and like chop it up with you has been really cool because you're somebody
Yeah.
who is in a similar line of work, and
Yeah.
we all, like, I feel like as creatives we all kind of like experience a lot of similar things, and have
Yeah.
similar upbringings
Yeah.
like in this space, that it just makes it fun where you can like relate and like share
Yeah.
experiences with people.
Yeah, totally, totally. Yeah, it's definitely been a ride for sure. I'm honestly still trying to like figure out a lot of stuff. Like I actually got I don't know if you saw on Instagram, but like I got accepted into this like Rome program, like mentorship
Oh yeah, that's
program.
right, that's right.
It's like it's sponsored by a couple people, but Peak Design is like the main one that like kind of backs it, and so it's basically the whole program. It's run by Patty. She lives down in Bentonville. She's a professional photographer. She's also like a paramedic. She does like all these things. She's like she wears many hats. But she's like known to be like an action sports photographer. She like basically stood up this whole program for basically not just women but like women identifying folks to basically like get a woman mentor, like, or a woman identifying mentor like in the outdoors industry, and like pair them with basically like like quote unquote amateurs, but that's like not really the right word either because there are other people in this program that I'm like, oh my god, you're so good, like what am I doing? But like
That sounds
but like
exciting.
But yeah, like it's stuff like that where I'm like I'm really stoked about it because it's like, I have this like insane opportunity to just like learn from people who have been doing this for years, like, and so I'm stoked about that, and like I'm really excited to kind of take photography like more seriously, especially in like the outdoors world. And so like so much stuff to look forward to, but it's like also like kind of intimidating, but it's fine. I'm fine, guys. But like
But like kind of going back to what we were talking about, like
yeah.
it's kind of I feel like when we kind of like when you kind of venture into those things that are challenging that you're like uncertain of, like
Yeah.
I feel like that's
Dude,
kind of
that's when
like
it's
when
the
you
most
unlock the
fun.
next level.
No, dude, seriously. I literally, oh my God. Because we had a call last night. I was literally driving, like taking our first call driving. I'm like, oh my God, the grind. But like, it's fine. If anyone understands that, it's like that group of people.
Right.
So like, but it's so funny that you say that because I was like, I was telling them, I was like, yeah, like, I applied to this thing like 30 minutes before it closed. Like it was on my list to do it. And I was so busy with work and just like other stuff in my life that like it slipped my mind. And it was like 11:30 at night. I'm like laying in bed and I'm like literally trying to apply to this thing. And I was like, holy shit. And then like Patty called me. She was like, dude, like, congrats. Like, you're in. And I
Wow.
was like, dude. And I was like, this is a sign. I
That's
was
awesome.
like, this is crazy. I was like, so yeah, I'm like super stoked about it. And like the opportunity is insane. So like the culminating event basically is we go out to Rome bike festival in Fruta, Colorado, and we'll shoot for, a couple brands. We'll shoot the event. But yeah, it's gonna be super cool. It's in like September, so it'll
That's
be
awesome.
good.
So it's kind of
Yeah.
like, but like kind of going back to what you're talking about, like it's just kind of like another step into like the direction of,
Yeah.
being able to grow the photography and be
Yeah.
more in like the outdoor space.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. And it's definitely like, and like where is this all leading basically is like, I think for me, like, again, like 9 to 5 is super, like I get a lot of fulfillment out of my full time job. Like I work at a really awesome company. I have a really awesome team. And like the work is like very challenging but also fulfilling. And it's like I need that in my life for sure. But I think there will be a point in my life where it's like, all right, like kind of want to like chill. To my point, like I want to live in, like have like 15 acres of land and like do whatever. uh I'm not necessarily going to want to be like grinding it out, sticking it to the big man or whatever. So it's like at a certain point, like there is going to be a phase of my life where it's like I kind of want to work for myself. And like for me, like that is photography, that is like marketing, that is that arena. So it's like, yeah. So I'm just like excited because like, it's advancing and it's like I'm still doing like the full time job. I'm tired, but like,
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, it's awesome. Like, and I think this is a good thing to talk about. It's like,
yeah.
I feel that in this space, I feel that there's a lot of pressure of like people wanting to, go all
You
in
just got to do
and
it. Yeah. And
go
I
all
think
in and,
that's,
and there's
yeah,
nothing wrong with that, I think, but like there's also nothing wrong with like still
doing both.
managing a full time like
Yeah. What's wrong with,
regular 9 to 5 and still doing the creative
yeah.
stuff and like what we talked about like on the ride. Like I think
Yeah.
there's as you start to kind of freelance and do more stuff, like you being able to have the ability
Hmm.
to have like a secure job or more
Yeah.
consistent income coming in, that
Yeah.
it allows you to be a lot more intentional with the work that you do take on and like the type of things that you
Yeah.
do, which I think
100%.
there's a lot to be gained from doing that as opposed to just grinding it out, doing whatever you can that pays
Yeah.
you. Because I
Yeah.
think like for lack of a better term, I think you get to a point where you feel like you're just whoring yourself out and
Dude,
you don't feel good.
no, like, no, it feels like really bad. Yeah. Like, again, like I had like a little taste of that last year and I was like, this is like not it. I
and
was like, this is not
and
it.
like I think
Yeah.
to say like to anyone listening, like it's okay if you're still like grinding it out with like a 9 to 5 while still
You
trying to
have,
pursue like
yeah. I think it's
whatever it is that you're trying to
totally,
do.
I think it's actually really smart to do that. If you're not, if you don't, if you feel in your gut that you need to like have a full time job, like you should keep it. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I think a lot of people, like a lot of creative people, will like get really swept up in like oh, well, if you're like splitting your time, then, you're only putting 50% in. And it's like, and okay, true. Like, yeah, you know what? Like, you are right. Like, yeah, like the guy that's available on Wednesday smack middle of the day, like I'm not going to be able to take that gig, right?
Yeah.
But it goes back to my point of like, I think there's something for everyone, and you just have to you have to you as the individual have to put in the work to go find that thing that works for you and like your conditions, right? So it's like yeah, like maybe I'm only putting in 50%, but like it's not that's not even like the case, right? It's like you're being more intentional with your time. You're taking on the work that like you actually want to do, and like, you know, and you're saying no to other things, and like saying no is not a bad thing either.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so it's definitely like I'm very like pro, you know, have your 9 to 5 and like go be a weekend warrior doing your side gig stuff. Like that is like so awesome. Like that there are people out there that can like do that. I'm like a big advocate for it. I'm like, you should like absolutely have a 9 to 5. Like,
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Like, I don't think there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, and like I think
yeah,
it's
I
good
don't
to like
either.
even being able to share that to like let people know that like yeah, it's okay if you
Yeah, I mean, it's a grind. Like,
I mean, you got,
I'll be the first to say it, but
but
you
it's
know
also a
what?
grind doing work that is not fulfilling,
Yeah, that's worse in my
and
opinion.
and how,
Yeah.
I think what's worse is even being able to like not only do work that's not fulfilling, but then like you know you go through your fits where you're not getting any work and you're
Yeah.
like stuck where like
And
oh
then
fuck.
it's like panicky.
Yeah, because
and
now
then
you
you,
got to
like,
pay
take-
bills, and then that makes I think like puts you in like
Yeah.
even a worse position.
And it's definitely riskier. But also I do understand though people that are like anti 9 to 5, right? Because I think even the shitty jobs, like the shitty creative jobs, those jobs will teach you more than like any like super sparkly job would,
That is
right?
true.
Like I think, you know, shooting the like boring thing is like valuable, gives you like valuable soft and hard skills as like a freelance photographer. So, you know, and this goes back to like, okay, well, like, if you're gonna do like the shitty unfun thing, like you better get paid for it. It's like, okay, like if you pay me, like I'll do it, because
Yeah.
like there is still value to do it. So it's like, yeah, it's just like so many factors to like balance and think about. And for me, I find that like, especially working a 9 to 5, it's always like a dance. It's always like a balance that I have to do. And then I also think too that, you know, the reason why I think the 9 to 5 and like freelance model works well for me right now is because like, it kind of like gives me a break from like, it gives me a break from the other things that are going on, right? So it's like if I'm like really grinding it out at my 9 to 5, which has admittedly been like this year, it's like it gives me space away from like photography and freelance and being creative and like stressing out about like not going to mountain bike events to shoot them, because like, you know, like I'm able to like put more effort and focus into like my 9 to 5, build those skills and like learn what I need to learn like from that. And then like one day I'll come back to like, one day I'll be able to like put more effort into mountain biking. And it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm behind. It's just I was putting effort into something else,
Right.
and now I'm gonna put that effort back into like photography and all that stuff. So like I like that model works really well for me, where it's like, you know, putting effort towards something else is a break from another thing. It's like the same thing with the fucking mountain bike, dude. It's like I this is like the least amount of mountain biking I've done since I've started riding. But I'm putting like all that effort into gravel.
Yeah.
And like I get on my mountain bike this year and I'm doing like 3-4 foot drops. Like I couldn't do that last year. Like that was like not a thing. So it's like, is it really like taking away? It's like
No, you're
who's
like
to say?
you're working towards
Yeah, and it's
making
like,
it easier
I'm a
for you whenever you
big-
get back to it.
Yeah, like I'm a big fan of like, you know what? Like sometimes you just gotta like take a break from it. Like you just gotta like do something else and like come back to it, and you'll come back better. So the model works well for me, but there are other people out there that like I don't think it works. So,
But it kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier that
Yeah.
like there's necessarily like even with all of this like in the creative world, there's really no, you know, whether it's influencer marketing, creative
Yeah.
work, or you know working with brands or like working with people that you want to work with, that it's not necessarily there's not necessarily like one
hmm
singular path that you have to like
Yeah.
take. It's really more like what works for you.
Yeah,
Like you figuring out what
truly.
works for you.
Truly. And I think that's like the beauty of like being a freelancer, right? And like working for yourself is like, that is like the thing. That's like the thing that people want out of being a self-employed freelance person, is like you get to make your own rules. And like this is absolutely Like I think being able to like be not rational, but like realistic about like, okay, like I want a certain standard of living and like whatever. I want to be able to play by my own rules like down the line, but in order to get there, like, I do need to like subsidize like my income, and like, if that looks like a 9 to 5, then like it looks like a 9 to 5, like,
Right.
and it's like, you have to like make compromises, but it's like, you know, eventually like you'll get to your goal. Like, you'll get there as long as you like stay on it and be consistent. But yeah, it's just,
Yeah, I
it's
think
good.
like I don't think you could have said it any better. And like I think with that, I think that might be a good stopping
Yeah,
point. I feel like it's starting to get dark now,
dude,
but like
it is getting dark.
Rachel, thank you
I know, I had so much
for riding
fun.
bikes and
Dude,
having a conversation
I
with me.
love doing this stuff.
Like
Super
I'm
fun.
I think this is really like it's been a fun experience not only because of like just having to like ride out, kind
Yeah.
of venture out of like my neighborhood and get
Yeah.
some riding in. I really like riding in new places, and even though like
Yeah.
I feel like my skills are not like super there, but like I was able to ride everything, and like, I thought the trails were
Dude,
freaking
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
So like,
100%.
thank you for doing that. Like I think it's really cemented, and like I want to do this more. So
Yes.
like I'm going to like reach out to more.
Yeah, you totally should. There's a bunch of awesome people around, like in this area in particular, but like the PA Ohio area, like I feel like the bike scene has like really grown in this area in particular. So like there's so many people.
Yeah. So like
Yeah.
that's kind of I'm really looking forward to doing more of that and like just building up the skills and like
Yeah.
doing more of like the action sports stuff because like I really think like I feel like that's
Yeah.
kind of like where I want to like in the near future kind of get involved in doing more of
Yeah.
that. So with that being said, Rachel, thank you for coming
Yeah.
on
No, it was a
the
blast.
Creative
I
Block
had so much
podcast.
fun.
And where can people find more of you if they want to reach out or see more of your
Yeah.
work?
Probably Instagram, rkim photo, and then rkimphoto.com is my portfolio for photography.
Awesome. With
Yeah.
that being said, thank you for
Awesome.
coming on. Thanks everyone for listening, and until next time.
Yeah. All right. See ya.
See ya.